So we recently started up the 2,000-gallon lagoon aquarium, which is also going to be a marine reef in time. But today's video, we're going a lot smaller. So we're going to go from 13.5 feet and 2,000 gallons to a desktop nano reef aquarium. And rather than the main focus being on corals, we're going to target macroalgae. And it's going to look a little bit like this. So if you were at the live premiere for the 2,000-gallon lagoon aquarium behind me, you know how cool it is to see a brand new aquarium ecosystem come online, seeing at the very beginning so that years down the road, you'll be able to compare how far the tank has come from when we first set it up. So unlike the 2,000-gallon behind me, today we're taking it small. We're taking it down to a 5-gallon desktop aquarium, basically a nano reef aquarium, where we're going to focus not so much on corals, although there will be some, but macroalgae combined with key invertebrates and just a couple little tiny fish, because my desk used to be downstairs, so when I was editing aquarium videos, I could look around and see all these wonderful tanks. But my desk, my workstation, my desk is upstairs now. My office is upstairs. So when I'm doing the video editing, I got nothing. I'm just looking at a monitor, which is no good. I've been jonesing for an aquarium on my desk for a while, and I ran across a 5-gallon fluval tank that I've had for a long time, like an all-in-one, probably 10 years old. So in this video, we're gonna fire that sucker back up, and we're gonna start a living nano reef aquarium from day one. Let's go. So I'm probably way more excited for this than I should be. For a guy who's got a basement full of fish tanks, I can't wait to have this little 5-gallon here on my desk up and running. So I spent a lot of time here video editing everything, and I've always wanted an aquarium on my desk again. I used to have one in my office for many, many years. I got the okay, and I went searching around, and lo and behold, out in the shed, I have this little 5-gallon, I think it's actually a fluval. It's at least 10 years old, but essentially, let me show you what we got here. Little plastic top with the cutout for the light. So we got the LED shimmer, and then if I just move the light aside, you can see we've got a little, little return right here for the water flow. So we got a pump down there. I put a heater in here as well. So we got one of those ones where you don't set it, it's just automatically set to 76. And get that down in there. And then this side, you just have the little sponge and ceramic media. So really simple, just blowing that water across, down and back into the weir. Now this is going to be saltwater for me, so I will probably add a tiny little power head to it for more water flow, which brings me into how we're going to set this up. All right. So simple filtration system, simple LED light. If this doesn't work, I will replace this. But in the meantime, what I've done is I've gone down, and this is from the 1,500-gallon system. This is a bunch of sand and mulm and shells from that system that's been running for a decade or so. And so we're going to start this guy off right with a nice soupy mix of bacteria and mulm and, like I said, sand and shells, all the good stuff. And we're going to build up the base of the aquarium with that. We've got a bunch of the, I don't know, we call it real reef rock, essentially fake live rock that's already impregnated with the color of coralline algae, so it'll look natural from the get-go. Of course, we're going to be dosing this aquarium as well, so we'll have real coralline algae and everything going. And then let me take you out and back real quick, just to show you that I've got a 5-gallon bucket of salt water already mixed up. I got a little cup to scoop it up. So first we're gonna do is get that live sand in there, work on the aquascape, and then get it filled up with water and turned on, and then we'll talk about what we're putting in there. So I'm taking a little bit of a leap of faith because I really didn't water test this, but it was good last time I used it. So, you know, knock on wood, hopefully we're still solid. As you can see, I've added in the little bit of water mulm from the other tank, along with the live sand. We've got lots of shells in there from hermits and snails from over the decade of having this running downstairs at the 1,500-gallon system. So fair it up a little bit in the back and a little lower in the front on each side. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to build the aquascape kind of tall over here, but not all the way up to the weir. And we'll try to keep it tall across the back and the side and then bring it back down over here and sort of a more open area in the front with maybe a little piece of live rock here and there. Hopefully I have enough, but if I don't, I can always go down in the fish basement, and with such large marine tanks down there, I'm sure I can find something that'll fit the bill right here. So let's see what I was able to achieve with the first pass here. We got pretty high in the corner there. We're good. Probably the right height over here and here. Maybe a little more rock in the middle to beef that up. We've got spacing off of the back wall so critters can go back around there. And then if we come into the front of the tank, we've got a little bit of cave action going, a little bit of rock here. So I think I'm going to go downstairs and get a razor blade so I can clean this glass off, and something for the outside as well so we can get a better view at this, and maybe take one big rock and smash it up a little bit and just fill in a few places. I want to bring that height up a little bit. I think the water line is going to be about here. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that. We'll get some water in it and then we'll talk about what's going in here. So you might be thinking, okay, I see you clean the glass, you scrape the inside, but it's still all cloudy. We can't see anything. Why are you showing us this? I'm showing you this because I'm going to keep track of how long it takes that sponge, basically that filter over there, to clear this up. And I'll let you know how long it did take, because eventually I'll figure out what this aquarium is. I'm pretty sure it's a fluval of some type. If somebody knows, it's a skinny 5-gallon with the light in the middle and then the filter on the side. Like I said, I've had it for 10 years, so it's an older model, probably not something they make anymore, but if you know, put in the comments, because for anyone who might run across one, it'd be nice to be able to compare it to what they're seeing here. So at any rate, we'll keep track of how fast it cleans up the aquascape, and from what you can tell, the aquascape is built all the way up and looking good, as well as we'll talk real quick about what's going in here. So this is going to be primarily a macro algae and invertebrate reef. So we're going to put calcium-based macroalgae like shaving brush and caulerpa and dragon's breath and all those cool-looking macroalgae. We're going to have a bunch of cool invertebrates like decorative shrimp, decorative crabs, decorative snails working on there. So they're going to be the cleanup crew, plus they're going to be pretty much the main show, because we can actually get a close look at their activities since we're right here on the desk. And then last but least, there'll be a little bit of corals and a little bit of fish. So think very, very small fish, maybe clown goby type size fish. And then for the corals, just think something like zoanthids, button polyps, mushrooms maybe. We'll keep it simple, but primarily, like I said, the invertebrates and the macroalgae are going to be the star of the show. So what a difference a day makes. Actually, it took about 2 hours each time that I would sort of muck around in the tank and try to dust up all the mulm to get it into the water column, because there was mulm that was back in the caves, like back there and in there and some in the corner over here. So I was doing everything I could to get it all stirred up, and then it would clean up, and then I would see where there was some more mulm. So I was stirred up again. And I did that 3 times, but each time it was about 2 hours, and it would get it back to this state where the water is very clear. So at this point, we have live sand in there. We have this reef rock. This is not live rock yet because it was dry. So even though it's painted to look like it's covered in coralline and everything, it's not. It's dry rock, so it's not covered in bacteria or anything yet. We do have our filter system with our sponge and our ceramic media. Again, that's not seeded yet. The only thing we have that's filtering the aquarium is this live sand, and we have the livestock coming in a couple of days. So right now, I'm just making sure that the water temperature, the salinity, and the pH and nitrate, all that stuff is all lined up. So just running those tests. Because there's little to no breakdown of organics in here, because we're not feeding anything, there's no organisms, the amount of bacteria we have in the live sand should be very sufficient. But once I do add organisms and start feeding, I'm going to have live bacteria in the bottle form on hand to treat any sort of flare-ups of ammonia if I detect any ammonia at all. And of course, there's always the water change as well is a possibility, but I don't think that'll be needed. I seed tanks all the time and start them off this way. So my expectation is this will operate just like the other tanks. But what we're going to do is we're going to let it settle for a couple days, and we have the livestock already on the way. And then we get the fun part. We get to introduce all the critters to their new 5-gallon mini macro reef home. All right, we are finally to the fun part. The tank has been running for a few days. Everything's been going great. The levels are fine, and it's finally time to introduce livestock because we got a nice little delivery of copepods, amphipods, macroalgae, invertebrates, cleanup crew, even some red mangrove plants, but these are actually for my 1,000-gallon marine estuary downstairs. So let's just ignore those for right now. But let's go through and see what we have. So the first thing we have here in this bag is amphipods and copepods. Actually, you know what? Let me go back. There was one bag that was burst, and what it had in it was a red Mithrax crab, which is right here. So I went ahead and put him in the tank. I put him in the tank way over here, and he climbed over there. So he was apparently either had a little bit of water in there, or he was out in the air enough that he was able to survive. But he is in the tank, so he's good. So now we can calmly put in the other things that we purchased for this tank. So like I said, here we have a whole group of plankton, amphipods, copepods, everything. This is going to help seed our reef and create the micro life, the microfauna that these invertebrates can feed on, as well as the food we provide them. And then along here too, we have macroalgae. So we have shaving brush macroalgae and mermaid's fan. So while these look like plants, they are macroalgae, but they basically take the look of a plant in the aquarium. It's sort of a saltwater planted aquarium. They give it that look, even though they are calcium-based structures and they are macroalgae. So we'll have to dose calcium, alkalinity, strontium, iodine, all those things that supports the growth of these plants as well as the light itself. So what we're going to do first is we're going to introduce the plants. Then we're going to introduce the smaller invertebrates, what we call the cleanup crew. These are a bunch of hermit crabs and snails of different types. They're snails that go into the substrate, burrow into the substrate. They're snails that climb on the rock and glass. And there's different types of crabs, hermit crabs, with brightly colored legs, that some smaller, some larger, that eat all the leftover foods and keep the reef clean. And then lastly, the star of the show for right now is the invertebrates in these 3 bags. It was 4 bags, so one of them is that red Mithrax crab over there, and these are the other 3, and we'll put them in last because until we add any fish or corals, these are absolutely the star of the show, and honestly, they will be for the length of the aquarium because if there's any fish, it'll be very few, and it'll be a very special fish if there is any at all. Same with corals. So we got the macroalgae in the aquarium now, and we also added the copepods, amphipods, plankton, phytoplankton, all those nice pods to the aquarium, and we stirred up the substrate just a tiny bit, so we got a little bit of a mess in there, but nothing this filter's not going to take care of really quickly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the camera right here in front of the aquarium, get zoomed in, because I'm going to be adding all of the micro critters. They're going to help keep the aquarium clean and healthy. So this is a lot of, tiny little snails and hermit crabs, most of them. Some of them are a little bit larger, but I think if the camera's right there as I add them in, it'd be the best way to show them, because I don't think they'll show up well in the bags. But when we add the stars of the show, the bigger invertebrates, we'll be able to film them going in their very first moments. already just within minutes, you can see, well, you see the red Mithrax crab. He's moved over underneath that rock. You can see some small hermit crabs and snails moving over there. And you see that beautiful scarlet red hermit crab there, as well as other snails and crabs. And we have the bigger snail up there. Very, very cool. Everyone's situated, turned over, and they are ready to explore their new home. Everybody came in great, looking good, and everyone is successfully transitioned. They were sitting in a mix of my water and their water for a while, and then we basically poured that out and put in essentially just these guys with a tiny bit of water. But our live sand will take care of whatever ammonia was in that water, because we have a very low bioload and we have a lot of bacteria in the sand we moved over from the 600-gallon reef slope. All right, let's clean up a little bit of our mess from the front glass where we got salt water running down it. Get ourselves a clear look again, because it's time to add the stars of the show. And we're going to start off with, we'll do the red Mithrax crab since we already have one in there. Let's go ahead and get the other one in. All right, we removed his water, and he is entering the tank right now. And of course, he's able to instantly flip over and head straight for the rocks. And in true crab fashion, he appears to be picking at the rocks looking for food, because he's like, wow, that was startling. Some monster just took me out of a bag and threw me in some new home, but I don't think I'm going to eat this. He does have a little bit of there's a black screen that they put in there to give him something to grab onto in the bag, so I need to see where that went so I can fish it out. All right, now it's time for our emerald green Mithrax crab. We poured his water out, and there we go. He's in the tank as well, able to flip right over, but he's kind of gone back behind that shaving brush plant. Let's see if we can come up higher, get a little bit of a view. I can see him moving around. Looks like he's taking a little more time to settle in than the red Mithrax crab over here, but I'm sure it will take no time at all. And of course, we're going to come back once everything is settled in, and we'll throw in like a little pellet or something to really make these guys go nuts eating, and we'll be able to see everybody come out and attack, like a little food pellet, like sinking pellet. Okay, and last but not least, our Zanzibar banded coral shrimp. Oh, what a cool shrimp. You can see he's got the bright yellow on his face, and then the white and red striped body, and he's a type of boxer shrimp, so the way the claws stick out kind of looks like he's boxing, so to speak. But at any rate, he's in the tank. So we're going to let everybody settle in here. We'll let this red Mithrax crab keep eating. We'll let the Zanzibar shrimp get settled in. Same with the emerald green and all these other critters. And then, like I said, we'll put in a shrimp pellet or a little meaty food pellet, and we'll watch all these guys go for broke once they're all settled into their 5-gallon Macro Algae Reef desktop home. So it's only been a couple days, but I am loving having my desktop Macro Algae Reef Aquarium. And I think it's time to put in some of those meaty sinking pellets and see if we have any takers. Let's go. Okay, they are right there in the front. We will give these guys a little bit of time to smell them, and I do expect we should get some takers in short order. In fact, I see a crab who's all of a sudden got active over here. And a little bit of movement in the cave as well. So I just noticed the blue leg, he got a pellet right away because it pretty much landed on him. And as we can see, he is going to town. And I'm pretty sure that emerald ruby crab, he's smelling it. He keeps moving that direction. We're not there yet. We'll keep an eye on him. All right, I definitely think he is on the track of it right now, on the scent, I should say. I also saw the emerald green crab back in the cave coming to life. So we'll see if he tries to take it away from the hermit crab or if he's going to go grab one of the other three. They're just waiting over there for him. I think he's probably going to try to steal it from the other crab, but we'll see. Yeah, he's reaching in there trying to grab it. There's plenty for everybody. Well, for the moment, it looks like they're sharing it. He's grabbing pieces and eating it. And I think the hermit crab is still able to eat it as well, though it looks like he's shelled up. He's basically just protecting himself. Yep. And you can see there the ruby mithrax crab, he's grabbed the entire pellet. He's got it right in front of his mouth. Very cool. But there's still 3 more. I see that emerald crab back there, the green emerald. But he's being cautious. We haven't seen the Zanzibar shrimp yet. That's what I really want to see. He's the star of the tank right now. And right now he's MIA. So the ruby mithrax crab, he's grabbed his entire pellet. He's gone back to the rocks. And we can see that the hermit crab's come out of his shell and he's moved over, grabbed himself one of the other pellets. I'll keep track of everybody, and if I see anyone come for the other pellets, we'll get it on camera. Well, it looks like tonight's pellets are just going to be hermit crab food because I greatly overestimated the 2 tiny little pellets I put in the other night, one of which was grabbed by the Zanzibar shrimp and the other by one of the ruby mithrax crabs. So obviously one of those crabs is satisfied. The Zanzibar shrimp is actually in this cave right over here, and he's molting. So he was definitely satisfied with his one little tiny pellet because he's growing, and next time we see him, he'll be bigger. So these big pellets tonight, these are just going to go to the hermit crabs. Now the green or the emerald mithrax crab is back in this cave over here, and I'm not sure what he's been eating on, but he's been eating on something all night. So obviously he's good to go and not interested in these pellets up front. So like I said, those will be hermit crab and snail food. And next time, I'll make sure I don't give them any food before I try to film. I was just sort of testing to see how fast they would come out. And they came out and grabbed those 2 little pellets. But I overestimated that they would be hungry again in 24 hours, which they clearly were not. So we got to see the other ruby mithrax crab get his pellet, went to town. We've got a hermit crab here who's obviously already saturated his tiny little stomach, but that's a huge pellet for a hermit crab. But there's lots of other hermit crabs, and they're slowly working their way over, and they'll get their share as well. So nothing will go to waste. But the next time we see this tank, we're going to have a bigger Zanzibar shrimp, and we have a lot of things coming. We have more inverts coming, we have some small fish coming, and we have some small corals coming. So this is just the beginning of the desktop 5-gallon Macro Algae Nano Reef Aquarium.